Wall Street Bets back in 2012 when I was in a place in my life where I wanted to take some of the extra money that I was making and putting it to work in a way that was more higher risk, higher return, shorter time frame than the typical long-term diversified index fund investing. So I funded this group as a place for getting ideas, for hopefully attracting people that were experienced and from the industry, as well as people that were hoping to learn and wanted to dabble into the stock market in a way that was with a much higher risk and much higher reward potential.
It's interesting to hear you say that, because as the Wall Street crowd or even the investment landscape goes in one direction, it invites new conversations. The trend towards indexing certainly opens the door to having those kind of conversations. And we have them all the time here with people who, launch their own fund that specifically look for companies outside of the index. Jaime, obviously, you have seen all the people commenting on the kinds of companies that have been targeted here, and some of these observers, some of these investors, trying to figure out what the driving force here is. Is it based on a belief in the fundamentals of a business? Is it something bigger than that? And clearly, there's a growing conversation around the idea of Main Street investors versus Wall Street investors, and that being one of the driving force behind some of the picks. Can you just take us inside the commentary and the driving force behind the group?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start by saying it's certainly not by looking at fundamentals. That's an easy no. But outside of that, it's almost impossible to tell. You have a huge group of people that are from all over with all sorts of different backgrounds, and just like with the internet, there's no controlling as far as what ends up getting traction or not getting traction. As far as which companies are being selected, it's interesting. A lot of questions that I've gotten and a lot of messages that I get is what's going to be the next meme stock, right? Meme stock being the stocks that go viral. There doesn't seem to be much of a formula. There's some common denominators with the stocks that ends up getting a lot of attention. Specifically right now with GameStop, I don't know exactly what it was that made it spark. It could have been luck. It could have been it's anybody's guess, but certainly GameStop has some properties which allow it or which have allowed it to move the way that it has. I'm not sure that companies with a different profile, that are larger capitalization or less of a short float, et cetera, would have been susceptible to this type of move.
Now, you reference the size of this group, and maybe you can clarify that as well. How many people are basically part of the forum itself, and is it maybe a number that goes beyond that, just based on the increasing curiosity around everything that's been coming out of Wall Street Bets?
Well, it's big. I'll tell you that much. Last I checked, it was between 2 and 3 million subscribers, but I've stepped away from actively moderating Wall Street Bets for about a year, but back then it was about 1 million subscribers, yet the traffic showed that there was a lot larger audience. You have a lot of people that don't have Reddit accounts, so they don't subscribe to the subreddit. They still read about it, and we would get, on any given day, when there was 1 million subscribers, over 5 million unique visitors. So I can only imagine that's doubled or tripled by now as well. It's gotten the interest of everybody. It's obviously entertaining. It's obviously interesting. It's obviously a completely different take on finance. And I can say with certainty that along with the so-called amateurs that don't know what they're doing, or they're there to learn what to do, there's also people that do know what they're doing, and they go there on their own dime, on their own time, for entertainment or for with the same hopes of making money from a different approach. So you have a little bit of everything. When you have an audience that big, it's difficult to say that it's a small demographic that's being targeted.
I guess in a moment like this, moments can impact or influence future behavior, influence people. We certainly see this, especially with things that are born online in the world of politics. What do you think happens, especially in this dialogue of the retail investor? And you just gave us a snapshot of the kinds of people that are part of this club, so to speak, and how they will feel about the investing landscape and where they fit in going forward.
It's anyone's guess, but to be honest with you, it's definitely going to change for the good. Previously you could see that there was arguments between, okay, well, what's the best way to invest? Is it going to be value investing? Is it going to be growth investing? Well, there's spirited debate around that. Now I can categorize both of those under one category, which is the academic approach. And then you have this meme approach, which you could have easily brushed off a few weeks ago, but it's almost impossible to do so. But the fact is, even before GameStop, we were already seeing this, quote, meme economics towards the stock market taking place. We saw it with Hertz last year, a company that went bankrupt, and then people flocked to that, and they shot the price well over 100%. You saw it with companies that they mistakenly bought the wrong one. Zoom is a great example. I don't know if you recall, but when the pandemic started, people flocked to Zoom, hoping it was a video conferencing company, but they bought the company with the ticker symbol ZOOM, which had nothing to do with it. But that stock price, the wrong stock price, shot up a lot. So people ended up making a lot of money with the wrong stock. They're indifferent. They're in there to make money. They don't even look at the fundamentals. Heck, they don't even look at the actual company that they're buying, but they walk away with their money and they're happy with it. And they've been doing that very successfully for the past year at least.
Well, to your point, and we have a story on BNN Bloomberg.ca this morning. I spoke with the store manager of the lone Blockbuster that is left in Bend, Oregon, because, as you know, we have seen some wild trading the last couple of days in what remains of Blockbuster, which already went through bankruptcy. So it's very unique. Now, if we are going to go down this road in an even bigger way, to your point, things have gotten so big, it's hard to ignore what's going on. We started the show by highlighting that, the president's getting questions around this. The head of the U.S. Federal Reserve's getting questioned, and clearly regulators are getting questions as well, which means a lot of inbound inquiries for the group itself. So can you walk us through what kind of conversations are taking place, if any, and what you think happens when we're talking about, it seems like, a group that is talking about stocks as opposed to what gets used quite frequently, Jamie, as you know these days, words like manipulation are constantly being thrown out there. So maybe you walk us through that thinking as well.
Yeah, it's certainly really interesting to watch. I'm very glad that I'm on the sidelines watching this because I'm able to do this from a neutral perspective. And I've heard arguments on both sides. They're both very solid arguments, right? On one side, you say, is this manipulation? Is this a pump and dump scheme? Are there any infractions as far as disclosure is concerned? And, I don't envy the SEC right now. I do not envy FINRA. They have a really difficult job on their hands right now because the laws, the way they're written, make this situation tricky. They weren't written for the age of memes and viral videos. On the other hand, I do get concerned. I do question myself what would happen if one of the moderators that were currently on WallStreetBets were actually involved in some of these trades as well. Keeping in mind that kind of changes the type of questions, and of course the role of Reddit itself. They're probably sitting behind the protections of Section 230, saying, "Hey, I'm just a platform. I'm not going to do anything about this. I'm just going to make sure that no laws are broken." So everyone's kind of in a new uncharted territory, and we're going to see how it plays out. I can't take any guesses. I'm going to enjoy as it plays out because it's super interesting, and I like that type of game-changing situation. But then, as you mentioned, you have the government stepping in as well. Outside of the regulators, the government, the legislators, Elizabeth Warren, AOC, whatever, they can always turn around and legislate and say, all right, well, clearly there's something wrong going on, right? Maybe this didn't actually fit the criteria of the pump and dump or whatever because of the strict wording in those rules, but we can't have this type of thing taking place. It wouldn't surprise me that if the regulators aren't able to do something, that the government's going to step in and going forward, they're going to try and contain some of this.